in a lovely house in the forest. Geologist Ish lives a peaceful life. One morning he decides to visit the quarry to look for pyrite and ignores a call from his mother on his way out. Moments later, while he's working, a snake suddenly bites his hand before crawling away. Panicking, he takes out his phone, only to accidentally drop it down a hill. Next, he uses a knife to gain easier access and sucks the venom out. He rushes back to his house and drinks some water before collapsing on the bed, but then he becomes delirious. A few hours later, Ish hasn't moved and his hand is terribly swollen. He can hear someone knocking on his door and a helicopter outside, but he can't move or talk. In the evening, he crawls out of bed to get more water, but his movements are so clumsy that he spills it, so he has to suck it from the floor. Ish keeps calling for his mom while on his phone. A text arrives from her saying, "We love you," many days later. Ish wakes up feeling better and his hand is back to normal. He gets in his car after cleaning it, and it takes it a few tries to start. Ish drives to town and is surprised to find the streets empty. Eventually, he stops the car when he discovers a rotting body on the ground. There are military cars everywhere and more dead people inside other vehicles. On a road sign, he reads that there's been a global pandemic and the US government has been suspended. As he freaks out, he gets back in his car and turns on the radio. The news reminds the public the virus is highly contagious and lethal, so everyone must stay inside. When he makes it to his family home, Ish is devastated to discover both his parents are dead. After taking a moment to cry, he buries his parents in the backyard with a kiss on the forehead as goodbye. After resting in his childhood bed, Ish keeps searching the town and finds dozens of bodies in the church. Then he picks up a bunch of supplies, including a gun, and drives to the bridge, only to find it blocked. He screams in frustration, before taking a different road to reach Las Vegas, which is also completely deserted. Searching the buildings is unsuccessful, so he decides to take a break in a jacuzzi. Later he goes to a bar to get a drink, and drops the glass when he's startled by a voice. These are Milton and Ann, who explains they're immune and got stuck here when it all started. Milton has recorded the announcement on his phone and shows it to Ish, who learns the virus is new and nobody knows where it came from. Vaccines were ineffective, and people were starting to panic on the streets. Eventually, the government lost control and the virus took over the nation. Suddenly, Ish admits that his parents had told him there was a new sickness around, but he hadn't thought it was this serious. Milton, and then tell him, all nations fell, as so probably. There are only a handful of survivors like them around the world. And confesses, she watched her daughters and husband die on a video call, while the duo keeps drinking. Ish leaves to take the elevator, only to realize he has nowhere to go and falls asleep on the ground. The next morning, he finds him trying on expensive clothes from the store. Ish wonders if being alive matters, and says her heart beating doesn't mean she's alive. Then the trio gathers for breakfast, and Ish learns Milton's wife died here in the hotel. Ish announces he'll leave soon, in an upset, and leaves the table. Milton tries to convince Ish to stay, saying they have food and a generator, as he shows Ish his gun. He also reveals he and Ant have an agreement when food runs out, they'll self-delete when Ish points out that the country has enough resources to last a decade. Milton asks why anyone would want to live after everything they cared about is gone. Before leaving, Ish asks Ant to come with him. She turns him down but still kisses him, so Ish has to push her off. On his way out, Ish hears 2 gunshots. Furious, Ish drives down the road at dangerous speed and almost hits a dog, but he stops just in time. Seeing this as a sign, he names the dog Lucky and takes him with him. Next, Ish stops at the library and gathers all the books on survival he can find. Not knowing what else to do, Ish returns to his old house to start a new life with Lucky. A year later, Ish is still alive. He keeps himself busy with chores and exercise, but he can feel he's starting to lose it, and sometimes he drives his car in circles. One morning, he hears Lucky barking and looks out the window to see smoke in the distance. Ish and Lucky immediately get in the car and drive to town to follow the smoke to a particular house. Emma appears on the roof with a gun, but she puts it down when Ish explains the situation. She invites him in and tells him she arrived a few days ago while sharing tea and bread. They get along pretty well, so when Ish tries to leave, Emma tells him to stay the night. The next morning, Ish convinces her to come live with him, so they can keep each other company, while Emma looks around the house. Ish gets rid of the noose he'd hung up when he felt hopeless. Emma notices that the rats have gotten into the pantry, so they go back to town to get supplies. At the store, they have to ignore the horrible stench coming from the bodies, and a few rats' days pass, and Emma and Ish find a new routine together. They plant vegetables and go fishing for food. In town, animals appear on the streets because there are no people to stop them. Emma gives Ish a haircut and he starts building a chicken coop, hoping they can start a farm. Eventually, their relationship turns intimate. When Isha's car runs out of gas, he has to start filling up the tank using other vehicles in town. He also begins building solar panels on top of the house. One morning, he accidentally slips off the roof and falls, hurting his ankle in the process. Emma helps him come inside and takes care of him, while admitting she misses having more people around. Later, while he's sleeping, she looks at old pictures of her family and cries. When Ish gets better, he immediately starts building again. Emma announces she's pregnant, and Ish freaks out, hesitant to bring a kid to a post-apocalyptic world. He ends up looking for books on childbirth at the library, where rats are running around too. A few months later, the couple's little farm is going well, with plenty of vegetables and even a few chickens. However, Emma points out she needs protein, so Ish agrees to go hunting. He finds a bunch of cows, and after lots of hesitation, he shoots one as he apologizes. Then he follows the book's instructions to cut it and get the meat, which he takes home in a cooler. Some days later, Ish finally finishes the solar panels, and the house has power, which means they can store food in the fridge again. Emma interrupts the happy moment with bad news. She's found a huge rat in the basement. She had to drown it to kill it, since their traps aren't big enough for this size. A quick look through the window reveals that hundreds of rats have taken over the town and are now coming to their house. Ish realizes that the trash is attracting the rats, so he rushes outside to burn it all, while Emma shoots at the rats that get too close. Unfortunately, Ish has to burn what is left of the cow as well. No matter what they do, the rats keep coming, so the duo runs back inside and starts working on sealing every door, window and hole. Emma also pours lots of bleach into the toilet. A sudden crying noise reveals they forgot Lucky outside, and he's being bitten by the rats. Ish has no choice but to open the door and quickly grab the dog before running back. It's just a second, but a few rats still manage to get in, and Ish tries to open fire. The bullet misses because they're constantly moving, so instead, Ish begins killing them all by furiously smashing them with his gun. Afterward, Emma takes care of Lucky's wounds. This experience makes Ish afraid he may lose Emma during childbirth, so she finally confesses she gave birth to 2 daughters without complications. She lost her entire family on the same day because of the virus. A few months later, the rat infestation is finally under control, thanks to the feral cats prowling in the streets. The couple can finally unseal the house and come out again. That day, Emma starts feeling contractions and gets ready to give birth. However, she discovers the baby's shoulder is coming out first. Ish wants to find a book that explains how to deal with this, but Emma yells at him and guides him on how to correct the position of the baby until the head is out first. This helps the birth go smoothly, and now they're the proud parents of a healthy baby girl, feeling hope for the future again. Emma paints their address on a wall in town, inviting survivors to join them. This is seen by a mysterious person in the distance. 6 years since the pandemic started, Ish is driving alone when he accidentally hits a lion. He grabs his gun and gets ready to mercy kill it. But at that moment, he notices someone watching him from the woods. He runs after this person and tries to grab her, so the girl tries to defend herself. Ish steps back and swears he means no harm, explaining he has food and that lives with other survivors. The girl just screams again and runs away. When Ish returns to his truck, he discovers the lion is gone and the girl has been following him. She accepts the apple he offers her and jumps on the back of the truck. Ish takes the girl to his house, and it's revealed he and Emma have 2 kids now. Heather and Alex. They've also been joined by 2 more survivors, Jorge and Marine, not to mention Emma is pregnant again. Everyone is friendly toward the new girl, but she still doesn't speak or leave the truck, so I conclude she must have PTSD. That night the girl sleeps in the truck. The next morning Marine brings breakfast for the girl, who is startled and causes her to drop the dish. As the girl grabs her wrist, Marine notices they have the same scars and shows her the ones on her chest. She also offers her hair for her to touch, gaining her trust afterward. Marine shares how she and Jorge arrived here, thanks to the sign, and convinces the girl to get a bath. Meanwhile, Isha and Jorge go to the woods and discover 2 very rudimentary cabins with graves in the back moments later. Marine goes through the girl's belongings. There are many creepy drawings in a diary, and a letter that indicates the girl's name is Evie. Marine uses the name, and the girl responds well to it. She even accepts clean clothes and a room to sleep in. In the evening, Marine shares the letter with the others. It was written by Evie's mother, who begged the reader to take care of her daughter. When the pandemic started, Evie's father took out his frustrations on her, and the mother was sick, so she couldn't protect her. The group agrees to welcome Marine to their little family. Soon, Emma gives birth to a lovely baby boy named Joey. A year later, the group is having a nice day when suddenly, the intruder alert goes off. After leaving the kids inside with Marine Ish, Emma and Jorge grab their guns and go investigate. They find an armed woman named Molly, and after a little back and forth, everyone agrees to put down their weapons. Molly introduces them to her friends Jean, Ezra, and Rafe, and they all agree to go to the house. After more introductions, Moraine realizes Jean is a famous musician. The group comes from Oregon and claims they left because of a flu outbreak. Emma tells them they can stay in the neighboring house, but Ish is still suspicious. The next day, everyone gathers to go out for supplies. All the kids must stay back, and Ish is very strict when he explains the rules. Molly asks about medicine, but Ish tells her it's all gone, so they should stick to food. When they make it to town, there's a buffalo in the street, and Ish tells the others to just ignore it. The group splits to look for food, but Molly ignores the rules and goes to the hospital, where she finds many disgusting bodies. Jean grabs lots of alcohol, and Ezra finds a guitar for her. When the group reunites to leave, they notice Molly's gone. At the hospital, Molly comes across a feral dog and uses a fire extinguisher to scare it away. Then she uses the same extinguisher to break a lock, which gives her access to a backup stash of medicine. When she finally goes back, Ish scolds her for breaking the rules, but he has to shut up when she shows him how much medicine she's found. That night, Jing uses her new guitar to sing for everyone over a bonfire, and Ezra tells a few bad jokes. After everyone goes to bed, Jorge shares his favorite memory with Moraine, and they do the dirty for the first time. Meanwhile, Jing gets drunk in the kitchen. The next morning, Molly checks on Jean, who admits she drank a lot because she's trying to terminate her pregnancy. It's obvious she's having a breakdown, but Molly still promises not to tell Ezra. Time passes and the group continues to live peacefully. Jean's baby is born healthy, and soon Maureen has her own child as well. 14 years after the start of the pandemic, everyone is still living together as a big family, and they celebrate Heather's birthday. Ish takes Joey to the library, often hoping to pass on his love for books. One afternoon, Ish and Joey notice that the wind is blowing pretty hard, and it begins to rain, so they hurry to return home. They make sure everyone is safe inside, only to discover Lucky is missing. Ish goes looking for him, and is devastated to discover Lucky has been killed by a fallen tree. Emma soon joins him, and they cry together while clinging to the body. The next day, Lucky is buried in the garden. Later, Ish is watching the kids play when suddenly, a mountain lion appears in the bushes. SH tells the kids to run and jumps in to protect them. So the lion attacks him instead and begins mauling him. After so many years of silence, Evie begins yelling for help. Soon, the other adults manage to rescue Ish and rush him to the hospital. Molly is a doctor, so he guides the group to help her with the injuries. She has to give a CPR to stabilize him before she starts working on closing up all his wounds. Meanwhile, Emma goes to the woods, and Wynn finally finds the lion. She shoots it multiple times as revenge. When Ish finally wakes up, Molly admits she isn't a full doctor, she's just a student that dropped out of college. However, Ish trusts her knowledge, and soon he's able to walk again. So he goes back to his family. By the 17th year of the pandemic, Joey has become an excelling fisher, and Ish is very proud of him, which makes Alex jealous. Rafe and Heather are old enough to go looking for supplies alone, and while searching houses, they're confused by many things from the old world. They get along well, and soon they start dating. Eventually both teens are eager to see more of the world, and after some discussion, their parents allow them to go. The teens fill a car with supplies and guns, so they can be safe out there. Sometime later, Ezra notices that the plants are abnormally dry for this time of year. In the kitchen, Evie can't get water from the kitchen faucet and gets so nervous that she breaks the handle. A quick trip to the reservoir reveals that the water is gone because the area is going through a drought. The pipes are also rusted and broken because they haven't received any maintenance. If it doesn't rain soon, they only have a week left of water, and that's only if they begin to ration. At that moment, they see two vehicles passing by, so the group rushes back to the house. In case these new people are dangerous, minutes later, Charlie and Perry show up outside the gate with a canteen full of water as a peace offering. Charlie explains his group found a drill outside of Nevada, and since then, they've been drilling wells. They're willing to share this knowledge, so Emma finally opens the gate for them, and both groups share a meal together. Ish agrees to exchange all his spare fuel for a well, so after lunch, Charlie starts digging. The whole process will take around 72 hours. In the afternoon, Ish and Charlie go hunting together, and Ish is startled when Charlie suddenly shoots behind him, just to kill an animal. Charlie explains he's a very good shooter because he's had lots of practice, and not just on deer. Later during dinner, Charlie shows off his scars and stares at Evie, who looks back with a clear discomfort that Ish notices. The next morning, Ish tells Alex not to help Charlie with the drilling because he doesn't trust the man, but Alex thinks his father is being unfair and ignores him. Ish tries to share his concerns with Emma, who thinks he's just being paranoid. Sometime later, Charlie has a tough time breaking through a layer of rock, but after lots of effort, the drill goes through and the search for water continues. Ish has to watch how his family gets along with Charlie's group, to the point they're all singing together. Upset and confused, Ish goes for a walk in the woods, to clear his head only to end up getting lost. That evening, Charlie shares his cigarettes with Jean, but she turns down the liquor. Charlie gets rather pushy and only backs off when Jorge comes out of the house. Meanwhile, Emma is worried about her husband and starts getting ready to go looking for him. But at that moment, Ish finally comes back. Emma scolds him for disappearing without a word, and Ish admits he's worried about what may happen if they find water. The next day, the drill finally goes deep enough and water bursts out of the ground while everyone celebrates. Ish tells Charlie to take the fuel and leave, but Charlie says he likes this place more than he thought. After the well is properly installed, they throw a party to celebrate, but Ish is still worried. Emma asks Perry where her group will go next, and Perry says she doesn't know because Charlie really likes it here. Later that night, Ish hears a woman screaming and looks around to discover Charlie coming out of Evie's cottage, while his friend Silas is keeping watch. Charlie ignores Ish's concerns and returns to his RV, where Perry is mad at him too. At the same time, Ish goes to the cottage and finds Evie crying because Charlie took advantage of her. Ish's family gathers to discuss how to deal with Charlie. They don't think they can just send him away because he'll probably come back, so they have no choice but to kill him. An argument ensues, since some people think it's self-defense, while others think it's murder. They decide to vote, and everyone says yes, except for Jorge, who changes his vote when Marine insists. Afterward, Ish goes looking for Charlie and asks him to leave. When Charlie refuses, the family surrounds him and Ish hits Charlie's head with a hammer. Once Charlie falls, Ish continues to furiously smash his head until he's dead. Ezra has to stop Ish as he loses his mind and keeps repeating. We head to then Ish tries to wash all the blood off the hammer, commenting on the irony that the blood belongs to the person who gave them water. Emma comforts Ish and tells him he did what he had to. The next morning, Charlie's body is thrown into the ocean. The family tells Perry that Charlie is gone, but she and her people are allowed to stay. Perry catches on to the real meaning and is actually relieved, because she's another of Charlie's victims. Afterward, they inform the rest of the group that Charlie is gone, and Silas gets angry, saying Charlie never changes plans. As Isha's group gets their guns ready in case Silas reacts, Corey points out it's a good thing Charlie is gone, and the rest of his group backs him up. Silas calls them all cowards and leaves the community. When Alex comes out of the house and asks about Charlie, Ish tells him he's gone because he heard Evie. Alex doesn't take the news very well. At that moment, Silas comes back and asks to stay because he has nowhere else to go, pointing out Ish was the first person brave enough to fight Charlie's control. However, Ish doesn't let him in, saying Silas is at fault too, for keeping guard for Charlie instead of warning the family. 20 years after the start of the pandemic, it's clear Earth is healing thanks to the lack of humans. Joey and Corey have been working hard and have managed to build a modified version of Da Vinci's airplane. He needs a few more tweaks, but they hope they can fly it soon. Everyone is excited except for Alex, who is still jealous in the evening. Joey admits he isn't feeling well, and Ish makes a root concoction for him. However, in the middle of the night, Joey goes into his parents' room, covered in sweat, and suddenly passes out. Ish runs to look for Molly, only to discover Corey and other members are sick as well. Molly points out this is moving too fast, so it can't be a common cold, and suspects it may be related to the original virus. Ish begins arguing with her over how to proceed, but they get interrupted when Perry arrives, saying she's also sick. Soon, the entire household is helping Molly take care of the sick people. Still in denial, Ish takes care of Joey in his room and has a vision of Charlie watching them. As time passes, Ish spends most of his hours sitting next to Joey, which makes Alex angry, because he knows his father wouldn't be as worried if he was a sick one sometime later. Heather comes back, but she's alone because Rafe died. She can tell her parents are tired and takes over a shift to watch Joey. No matter how many days pass though, Joey doesn't get any better, and Ish thinks he's being punished by God for killing Charlie. Getting desperate, Ish decides to cut a hole in the bridge barrier, which is big enough for him and a bicycle. Now, he can finally cross the bridge and reach the big city, which is covered in plants. He rushes to the hospital, and after breaking a few doors, he finds lots of medicine. During his search, he has a vision of Charlie again, and his guilt continues to haunt him. Ish decides to stop at the chapel and asks God to take him, instead of Joey at the house. Heather shares her journey with the others. She and Rafe drove north, but didn't find a single person. They got to see the beach and admired its beauty, but towns were unkept and rotten. One day they saw some numbers with an arrow painted on a building. They started to follow them, and found the same arrows painted on other buildings, trees, and even rocks, but they never took them anywhere. Eventually, they decided to stay a few days on top of a mountain. Suddenly they heard a noise, and a strange man appeared in the woods. Heather tried to follow him, but he ran away when the couple returned to their tent. The man reappeared and grabbed Rafe from behind. Rafe tried to fight him, but the man retaliated by stabbing him with a knife. A furious Heather immediately threw an axe at him. Killing him, Rafe only got to say goodbye before dying as well. After burying him, Heather started to make her way home on foot, because her car broke down. Hearing all this makes Jean start drinking again. As soon as Ish comes back, he starts getting things ready for a blood transfusion, hoping to pass his immunity to Joey. Heather immediately calms him down and advises him against taking extreme measures too soon. Then she tells her to go to Molly because she's created a new medicine made from a tree. Ish picks up Joey and takes him to Molly, who explains the medicine may take a few days to take effect since Joey is burning with fever. Ish gives him a freezing bath. A few days later, everyone is starting to feel better. Molly explains this is a strain of the original virus, and she can only treat it because it's weaker. Meanwhile, Corey asks Heather for a description of the man that killed Rafe, and realizes it was Silas. Now he has to decide if keeping the secret or not. Unfortunately, the medicine doesn't work on Joey, who says his final words to his parents and dies in his bed. Ish doesn't take it well and drives out of the house at great speed, ignoring his family's concerns. He finds the sign Emma painted years ago and covers it up. Then he goes to the library and starts throwing and destroying the books in a fit of fury. At the house, they bury Joey with a few more people who couldn't survive the virus either, and they hold a small funeral. Later, Emma finds us still at the library with a match in his hands. She reminds him it was all already gone before Joey, but he still has other children and friends to live for. This convinces him to return to the house, but he still doesn't know how to live again. A few days later, Ish goes on a hike and finds a beautiful view of the perfect sunrise, which shows what the world has become. When he goes back, he tells the kids he got it all wrong. He's been trying to teach them lessons from the old world, but now they live in a different place. Ish announces they don't need him to teach them anymore, because the world is their teacher now. A year later, Ish finally forces himself to enter Joey's room. While picking up all the unused things, he discovers Joey's diary. The boy had wanted to find more people, even if Ish didn't agree, and he had started to design a diagram for a radio, with its own antenna, wanting to celebrate his son's legacy. Ish tells the others they have a new project to work on together. Eventually, the radio is finished, and the antenna is installed on top of the house. The machine does work, but for now, nobody answers. Ish spends every waking hour trying every single frequency, hoping someone out there eventually will come through. One afternoon, Emma convinces him to take a break, and they join a baseball game. The others are playing using random objects from the house. They have an afternoon full of fun. But Heather can't help wondering why a ball game has so many numbers. Ish explains that in the old world, everyone was hung up on statistics, measuring and ranking everything. Hearing this causes Heather to remember the numbers with the arrow, and Ish realizes they're a frequency. The group rushes to the radio and tries Heather's numbers. After a few minutes of silence, they finally get an answer. There's a 77-member community, less than 100 miles away, at what used to be a state park. After some discussion, Ish's group invites these survivors to join their community. 50 years after the beginning of the pandemic, an old Ish passes his hammer to Heather's oldest son. Ish tells him that his last lesson is that men and women come and go, but the earth abides.